have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, morning, folks. How are you? Very rare that you see me this early on a Monday morning, but, well, it's a special kind of a day, isn't it? And, oh, I've got a little sign going off up there. Where the hell is that? Turn that off. Right. All good. You can please like and subscribe. We'd love you to do that. And if you're watching for the first time, hello. Welcome to the Voice of Freedom. My name's Carl. We've got a few new watchers this morning, so nice to have you on board, especially our overseas viewers. About 15 minutes we've got until the opening of trade in the markets today, and we are expecting a whole heap of interesting things to happen. How those interesting things play out could be the make or break of many of us who are invested in the precious metals market. Now, I don't want to overstate it, but it is a very volatile market, and it is extremely volatile right now. Over the weekend, after the suspension of trade on Friday or Saturday morning Australian time, the attacks were launched by Israel and the US against Iran. Now, this is going to have an effect on the price, along with some of the actions that have been taken by China over recent weeks, and particularly over the weekend, because they have made an announcement to their people about the gold that those people might hold. These are people like you and I in China who have got gold in a bank in China, the hard precious metal stored in a vault in a bank. They've been advised that they will not be able to access any of their gold to sell, to trade, to do anything with. They were only told this after their access was stopped 24 hours beforehand. So everybody today in China is waking up to the fact that while they may have a stock of bullion themselves in the bank, if they wanted to trade or try and make some money off it or do whatever, they have been stopped from doing that. Probably because of what's going to happen in a little under 13 minutes time. So the volatility is not just in China. The volatility is spread across world markets. And if you've been trying to buy silver over the weekend, I don't know how successful you would have been. Ainsley Bullion suspended trade over the weekend, I want to say Saturday night or Sunday morning, so that you couldn't buy, or they're not taking orders at the moment simply because of the volatility. Now, ABC, I believe, are the same, and a couple of the other bullion sellers, and the smaller ones are also making a lot of noise. I've had people call me in the last 24 hours inquiring about buying from smaller bullion dealers. And in fact, there is a new bullion mob starting up, I am told. And they're being very active in social media and a few other things trying to attract clients. Could I just warn you about that? Without having a go at whoever these people are, I know nothing about them, but I would seriously apply some logic to your thought patterns if you're thinking of going with a new player in the bullion market. In Australia, there are only 3 places that can create and produce the gold and silver bits that we can buy. Now, they are flat out, and they have orders lasting months and months and months in advance. I was speaking with somebody the other day who had ordered a kilo of silver through one of the other bullion dealers, and I want to say it was before Christmas. It was before Christmas that they ordered it. They're still waiting for it to be delivered, and they were told when they rang this dealer the other day that, yes, the order hasn't been lost, it hasn't been misplaced, it's in the queue to be fulfilled in another 2.5 months' time. Now, that's the kind of problem you are going to face if you're going to smaller dealers, because they're going to put in littler orders than the likes of Ainsley Bullion, for instance, who are receiving not 1 or 2 tons of delivery. They're receiving 6, 8, and 10 ton deliveries from the Perth Mint So all of that has to be produced, and all of the big producers are in the queue ahead of anybody new joining. So I would be very, 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 very circumspect about spending your money without being able to get that product straight in your hand from those smaller dealers. You can trust the big dealers, the Ainsley Bullions of the world, because they already have essentially the base stock in hand. What the problem with the big dealers is simply that production problem. They can only run the refineries and only run the machines 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can't make them run any faster than that. So that's where the delays are coming in. But if you've got a new one who says, yeah, I can go and buy this for you, I can get that for you in plenty of time, just give me the money now, I would just be a little circumspect about doing that if I were you. China, as I said, have thrown a bit of a furphy into their people. They don't want them selling off the gold because they're going to see an opportunity to make a bit of money through gold sell-off on the world market. China wants to keep all that. They want to keep as much of the wealth inside the country as they can, and that's why they've shut their borders to silver exports now too, and they're madly scrabbling to get as much silver from the rest of the world as they can. And that's why we've seen Donald Trump and co talk about having a base price for precious metals included through their critical metal legislation or their critical mineral legislation. Now, the Yanks, the Israelis, are throwing large amounts of missile technology over the borders of Iran at the moment. Every one of those missiles has 5 ounces of silver in it. Some have more, some have fractionally less. And the problem that they have is that every missile that blows up destroys that silver. They can't reuse it again. And they need more silver to make more missiles. This is the military-industrial complex being shown wide open how it works, folks. And you're going to see it flex its muscle as it already has in the paper market. Hence Donald Trump coming out with an idea that a base price, and this is in US dollars, of somewhere between 120 and 150 US dollars is going to be the new spot for silver. Now, that could happen when the market opens today. It might. Will it stay there? Well, there are signs that indicate, and I'm no, financial advisor, I've been watching this for years, but there are signs that indicate that, yes, this is going to be a fairly strong move. So we shall see. So with 8 minutes before the market opens, and I just want to get up and put the ticker on. I have it sitting here ready for you. So you can see the price is 131.91 at the moment, or 93.76 US dollars. And that is for an ounce of silver. When that market opens, I would expect that number to jump from 131 to possibly as high as 150 immediately. So we'll just see. Now, let's have a bit of a run through what's happened in the last 24 hours or so with Iran and the war that's happening there. Now, Donald Trump has come out and made some pretty big statements recent in the last 24 hours or so. He's called the attack a warranted attack to protect US citizens. Within 60 minutes of Trump's speech, where he stood and said they were commencing major combat operations against Iran, the Iranian army commander was assassinated. The US Fifth Fleet HQ in Bahrain was attacked and hit. That's, I believe, the base. There are plenty of explosions across Tehran, Isfahan, and Bushehr. I don't know how you say these places. I know that Isfahan is also a base of great interest to the Israelis, and that is what was hit overnight with 4 B-2 stealth bombers. Now, there are a few countries who are refusing rights for the Americans to land, refuel, rearm. So it doesn't really matter with a B-2. They take off out of their base in Minnesota, I think it is, in the US, and they fly across the Atlantic. They get refueled. They get refueled again. They go in and do their mission into Iran. They come out, they get refueled twice coming back across the water, and they land back at their home base. They do not touch ground. The flight takes a bit over 24 hours, and we should start seeing some news from that a little later on this morning. Those aircraft are on their way back to the States at the moment. What did they attack? Well, at this particular site, there is a mountain, and under that mountain, there is a very large and very well-protected Iranian military base. This is the deepest base in Iran, and supposedly where much of their nuclear program is contained. This was left alone, if you like, during the June bombings of last year, where Trump did pretty much exactly the same thing, sent in stealth bombers, cleaned up a certain particular nuclear preparation area, and then left again. Today, the word is that the reason Trump has been forced into a firing war with Iran is that Israel said, if you don't go and get this deep underground base using your deep penetrating bombs, so each one of those B-2s held one weapon, a 30,000-pound bomb, a deep penetrating bunker busting bomb. And they had 4 of them for this particular underground base in a mountain. No idea about battle damage assessment yet. I'm sure we will find that out in the next sort of 12 to 24 hours. But the goal was to destroy that base. If the Americans didn't destroy that base, the threat from Israel was that they were going to use a nuclear weapon to destroy it. Now, Trump is very dead set against, obviously, the use of nukes. So that played out as it did. And I guess we will see in the next 24 hours or so how effective those B-2 bombers were. Now, we are seeing a lot of civilians dancing in the street, celebrating the fact that the Ayatollah is dead. But it doesn't really explain this. These are the streets of Tehran. Doesn't sound like a celebration, really, does it? Thank God the bold bastard's dead. No, it sounds like retribution, revenge. It sounds like war. And America would have you believe that they are invincible, absolutely invincible. We are the powerest, we the most powerful, we have the most might, we have everything. And Israel would have you believe they're the same. The Iron Dome has been touted for years as being the most effective method in history of protecting the Jews from whatever is raining down on them. Not so much anymore. This is overnight in Tel Aviv. These are ballistic missiles just raining down into Tel Aviv overnight and into Jerusalem. The Iron Dome is completely depleted, folks, completely depleted. They haven't been able to restock it since they fired off, well, basically their entire protective arsenal during the 12-day war with Iran back in June. So now the people of Israel are back to what they were before the Iron Dome, with literally no protection above them, apart from the odd THAAD or Patriot missile system, which if you look at certainly one of the Patriot systems that was on display and being used in Dubai, it would indicate they have teething problems because it fired 3 Patriot missiles at one incoming missile. It missed it 3 times, and that missile then hit a hotel in Dubai. So a little bit of work to do on the Patriot missile defense system. The THAAD system is still working. How well it's working is a whole different ballgame. All right, we're into our last minute or so. And the number we want to be watching here is that number in the bottom right-hand corner, the $93.76. That's the US dollar number for an ounce of silver. And 131.70. The market has just gone live. And, let's see what it does. Might be interesting. Might sit and do nothing. Everything might be paralyzed for a little while they figure out what the hell's going to happen. But it has jumped fractionally. It went to 31.70. So we'll see what happens. 131.70. So if you've got a bit of silver, today could be a very good day for you. If you haven't got any silver, I would advise going into Ainsley Bullion, either in Melbourne, Brisbane, or the Gold Coast, and grabbing some. If there is a dip, I reckon this is it, folks. I don't know that you're going to be able to buy it much cheaper. And even still, looking at the price there of 131.70, which is not jumping as rapidly as I thought it probably would, but there you go. I don't know much about these things. I would be taking the opportunity to have a look at what you can buy a 1 ounce piece of silver for at the moment. I did a little bit of a look around earlier this morning and discovered that the cheapest I could buy a 1 ounce silver skippy was through Ainsley Bullion at just $160.08, just over $160. And pretty good deal until you go and have a look at other bullion dealers and you find they're charging a premium anywhere of $40 to $65 above that. Somebody's making a killing in the business. There we go. The move starts. We're now at 132, 133, drops back to 132.93. Watch that line, folks. I think we are going to see a green candle of significant proportion. How big will it go today? Well, we're looking to see whether or not we can reach the highs of here, which was of $169.48 back in January. Predictions that I've heard over the weekend are that we should blow through that high before close of business today. In fact, may even get close to 200 Australian dollars before close of business today. Fingers crossed for all of us if that is the case. I'll leave that playing along in the background for the time being, and I will throw up a couple of other little stories coming out of places like the War Room. This is Donald Trump in a meeting discussing what was going to happen with his speech, I'm led to believe. For me, the most interesting thing about this is that Marco Rubio is sitting to Trump's left. There is no sign of Vance, the vice president. And J.D. Vance was against this action. He wasn't, and he's never been, if you like, a warmonger, which I suppose is a good thing. Marco Rubio, on the other hand, has been known to be a little bit that way inclined. Also overnight, there have been some reports that an American aircraft carrier has been struck by a hypersonic missile that has not been confirmed in any way, shape, or form. In fact, the aircraft carrier they said was struck was the Gerald Ford, which is, if you like, protecting Israel. It's been positioned where it is for a reason, and that is because it now falls within a protection zone of, or I should say Israel now falls within a protection zone, an automatic protection zone for a US aircraft carrier and its fleet. That means if anything comes within a certain envelope of that aircraft carrier, it is an act of war, considered an act of war. And that is quite a considerable envelope. I think it's out over 200 kilometers away from the ship. Now, they've got the ship in a position where that radar coverage extends over all of Israel. So any attack from Iran into Israel is an attack on America. Now, you might hear in America at the moment, Democrats and no small number of Republicans are questioning why Trump is going to war without the aid of Congress. Well, he can argue that there was a clear and present danger. He needed to act quickly, and so that's why they went when they did. He can also explain to them if that issue with Israel and the threat of nuclear weapons was real. He can explain that to them as well. But I think he's going to have a lot more explaining to do regarding the discoveries that are going to be made through the metals market, particularly when New York opens a little bit later on today, and London certainly after that. We are seeing what is probably a pretty lackluster rise, although we've seen it go up $2 in 5 minutes. So I don't know what we were expecting, a straight up vertical line maybe. That's certainly sort of what I thought would happen. I thought that's what a gap up meant. But maybe we're looking at a gap up happening in real time. And clearly there is movement. Gold is moving up as well. Gold has jumped 1.76% since opening already. So up to 5,000, bit over 5,300 US an ounce, which will put it in the vicinity of 7,500 Australian. So if you've got an ounce of gold, hang on to that. That's going in the right directions too. Everything seems to be moving in the right direction at the moment. But volatility is a word that is wrapped around this sort of market and this sort of trade. And as we have seen various times over the last year or more, if you've been involved in stacking a bit of silver, you've seen that the market can do whatever it likes, it seems, with impunity. I think that has been the case for the last 40 or 50 years, that they can stop trade, change the laws of the trade, and restart the trade, and you lose all of a sudden. You were in, but then you lose. And that's exactly what happened to those of us that were looking at the price of silver in January and thinking, wow, we actually made a bloody good decision in our lives. And then you watch it drop over the case of, 24, 36 hours. You watch it drop 60% of that value. That can be a bit heartbreaking, but I've been taught by the best of them. And at Ainsley Bullion, they tell you, you don't buy this sort of stuff if it's what you have to live off. If you are buying silver and gold or precious metals at all, it's for a long-term view. So hang on to it and buy more is the goal there. So the market at the moment looking, well, a little steadier. It's jumped a bit. It's stopped a bit. It's jumped a bit. But bear in mind that the only places in the world outside of Australia and New Zealand are still asleep at the moment. The algorithms are alive and working. And at the moment, the algorithms will be trying very hard to suppress what's happening with our small trading numbers going through here. So they'll be working very hard to try and keep that price as low as they possibly can. Look at the 1 minute chart. Oh, Vince is in the room. 1 minute chart. All right, well, there's the 1 minute chart. In fact, I'll bring Vincenzo in. Good morning, mate. How are you?
Oh, yeah, good. Sorry, I wasn't planning that. I've actually got my 1 minute chart shared if you want to throw that up.
All right, well, hang on. I want to show a whole heap of charts that came in. This is a chart that was done for me last night by Vince. See the lines? I'm very impressed with the lines. Here's another chart. This one's for gold. Those lines look very impressive as well. This line is for copper. Lots of beautiful lines from Vince. And then Tony, he started feeling left out. So he's done a line for me too. This is all showing the general progression of where all this is going. There's another line from Tony. And then I thought, well, everybody else is doing lines. I better do a line too. So there's mine. I'm not very good with the lines. And as you can see, I'm not very good with smiley faces either. But that's about the best I can do for today's market. I apologize. All right. So we're going to put yours up. Tell us the story.
Oh, no, that is the 1 minute chart as it's there. We saw an immediate rise. As you can see from this section up in here. And then we've just had a pullback, and now it's jumping up again. But that's a significant jump in the 1 minute chart when we see how it was traveling. So, yes, I think your predictions so far are correct.
Yeah, well, I can't help but think that if there wasn't a weekend, Donald Trump probably would have thrown the missiles a bit earlier, and I would have had a prediction of 200 Australian by the end of February, real close. But I think it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we're going to see that. Well, maybe even today. I think there's half a chance. Whether or not it stays there is a whole other ball game. But I think it's going to be an interesting look. I've never felt the urge to gaze at these lines for terribly long. But I guess if you've got a little bit, and I only have a little bit, nothing life-changing here for me, folks, I can tell you. The price of silver is going to need to go to $2,000 an ounce before it changes my life in any significant way, given the quantity of it that I have. So, I think Vince feels a bit the same way, don't you?
Yeah, a little bit. It's interesting to note, have a look at the bottom. The flow is very low at the moment. So we haven't even seen any major flow happening. All right.
Well,
that's your buy and
nobody
sell.
in Australia wants to sell their product, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's your buy and sell. So anyway, okay. I'll duck out. You guys can continue to watch that, and Carl can continue his show. So catch you all later, folks. Bye.
And away you go. Okay, the 1 minute chart doing its thing, and 133.15. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, and it's going to keep doing that for the entire day. Okay. Just wait for China to open. 100% right with that, Greg. And China will open in another couple of hours, I think. I think they're 3 hours. They might be 2 hours. No, I think they're 3 hours behind us. So, keep an eye on that, and we should be able to see something significant then. They will be buying everything they can put their hands on, as they have been doing over the last little while. So keep an eye out for that. Now, if you are concerned about friends and family in the Middle East, boy, there's some stories coming out, some sob stories from some expat Australians who are living in Dubai who are quite surprised to find that it's maybe not as stable as they thought it was, and quite surprised to learn that they're a target from another Middle Eastern nation. Don't know why they would find that surprising. Dubai is about as Western as a Middle Eastern city could get. And there are a lot of Westerners living there. Dubai has actively sought out Westerners with money to come and live, to gain a residency permit there. You come and put all your money with us. There is no tax you'll pay. You can come and buy a nice, beautiful home in a beautiful apartment, which unfortunately gets, the odd rocket or the odd drone come through your window. It just depends on which part of the Middle East is angry at the time. Now, Stephanie Rice, the former Australian Olympian, and her husband, a pastor, are, I believe, in Perth at the moment, not in Dubai. Her husband runs two churches, one in Dubai, one in Perth, and I believe they've been in Perth recently. But it might not be the case. Steph might be, as there is one indicated statement from her. She might be at the US Embassy in Dubai in the UAE, which you've got to assume would be probably one of the safer places to be if there was to be any more significant shelling of Dubai. There are also stories I was saying before about the US aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford. It is within and covers Israel. So Israel is now protected under the banner of America being attacked. And that's what happens. If they fire a missile into Israel, it'll breach the barrier, the protection barrier for that ship, in which case all bets are off. They do not need permission to go to war from the Congress. That is an act of war to breach that 200 or whatever it is kilometer limit. And it's weapons free from that time on for the US. They don't need any kind of permission from the Congress. There is another aircraft carrier, the Abraham Lincoln, which Iran said they scared out of the Gulf completely. And they put up this beautiful photo to say, this is it turning around. They got too scared and were running away. I don't know how old that photo is. It's probably not one taken in the last few days, but I can tell you that the Abraham Lincoln did leave the immediate battle area, if you like. It went 850 kilometers away from the coast of Iran and resupplied at sea. So more food, a lot more weapons, and is now making its way back into the area of regard. So why did they get so far out? 850 Ks? Well, none of those little boats, if they have any of them left in Iran, are capable of getting out that far, and very few of their bigger Navy ships are even capable of leaving the dock anymore, because most of them at this point have been sunk. Donald Trump did come out with this statement. I've just been informed that we've destroyed and sunk 9 Arabian naval ships, some of them relatively large and important. We are going after the rest. They will soon be floating at the bottom of the sea also. In a different attack, we largely destroyed their naval headquarters. Other than that, their navy is doing really well. So Trump always got a sense of humor. Got to be happy with that, haven't you? Keep an eye on that. It's going to get wild with Iran threatening now to broaden the scope of the war. Now, Iran's always spoken up a big war, but today they're applying a bit of logic. They are saying they've studied the Americans and American fighting for the last 2 or 3 decades, and they've learnt a lot of lessons. People might be surprised to learn that for a nation that likes going to war as much as America does, they haven't won a war since 1945. And they needed the Allies to help them do that. Mind you, the Allies needed the Americans to help them do that. It's probably a better way of describing it. But that's the fact of the matter. The Yanks have not won a battle, a war of any significance since 1945. They've been in plenty. And they might have you believe that they've won because the actions have been, curtailed or negotiated out. But that isn't the case at all. It's smoke and mirrors. And there are just too many smoke and mirrors for people to be playing with. I was talking about Dubai before, I beg your pardon. So Dubai and I have people in Dubai, I have people in Bahrain, I have people in Oman, and I have people in Bahrain that I have been in contact with. The people in Oman are pretty unhappy with America, and that is in part why Oman was not struck by Iran with those initial missile tests. As you can see from this map, you can see the places that were struck by the Iranian missiles, and they avoided Oman. They hit Bahrain, they hit a variety of other places, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha, but they didn't hit Oman. All the other places have American bases, all right? Very significant Western influences. Oman also has very significant American base, but the Oman government did not agree with what was going on with Iran, and certainly did not agree to Israel and America attacking Iran, and have since withdrawn all their support for the event and have in fact sided with Iran. This has enabled Iran to say, right, the Straits of Hormuz are now closed. There will be no oil, no boat, no ship of any size gets through the Straits of Hormuz. And they have Oman helping them to close it. How do they close it? Well, they mine it. They put thousands of mines in the waterway so that any ship that were to transit it would undoubtedly hit one of them, and or more, and that would be the end. Now, can you imagine what would happen if an oil tanker struck a mine inside the Gulf, or even just outside the Gulf? What sort of ecological damage that could do? Will this stop the Americans? I don't know. They have plenty of good mine hunting and sub hunting and submarine sort of stuff that won't worry too much about the mines. They'll be able to see them with their sonar and associated other bits and pieces. But what does it mean for Oman having turned on America? Will it mean that the American base in Oman is now going to come under threat? And if so, will there be some retaliation there? And if that's the case, then all of a sudden you're fighting a war against Iran and Oman. And who is Oman also friends with? Well, they've got pretty good deals with China going at the moment too. I think a lot of what we're seeing here is pressure on China. China don't have great access to oil, and so the Black Fleet has been getting Iranian oil and taking it to China for years. That obviously is stopped at the moment. So China, no doubt, will have a stockpile larger than America's. But America will also have a bit of a problem with oil going forward, in that the prices are about to go up. In fact, advice would be go and fuel up your car, go and fill up your jerry cans, because it's about to get very expensive. People will say, oh, look, it's a long way away from us. We don't even get our oil from there. We get it from Singapore, or our fuels. Well, that's true. Australia actually exports crude oil to Singapore for production into other fuels, diesels and whatever. But we don't produce enough of it to keep the country going. Therefore, we've got to buy it out of Singapore. And where do they buy their crude from? Straight out of OPEC. And that means that those oil tankers that would be going to Singapore to offload and then at the refineries get reloaded again with the produced product, diesels and petrols. And we get 4 of those boats a week here in Australia, 4 of them a week. We've got 2 weeks of reserves for diesel fuel and maybe 4 weeks for petrol, unleaded. Now, if the boats stop, if the oil isn't reaching the refineries and the refineries can't make the fuels, then there's going to be a bit of a grip on fuel. So if you do have the ability to go out and store yourself some fuel, go and fill up your jerry cans, fill up your cars, and keep topping them up every day, because you never know. Overnight, you know what the fuel prices are like, and the fuel companies are absolute bastards. Here's a bit of a look at what's happening flight-wise. Nothing going into or around any of the area of regard, obviously. I am led to believe that the Formula One World Championship people who are stuck currently in Bahrain are being moved by road to somewhere, and from wherever they get to, and I'm figuring the only place they could either get to is Doha or Dubai, they are going to try and fly out from there. Now, these people have access to private aircraft. They're not beholden on a commercial flight, so they can pretty much dictate what time they're going to leave, where and when. However, they have to be allowed to leave. And at the moment, all of that entire airspace is still shut down. So it's going to be interesting. Will the Australian Grand Prix happen? Got no reason to think it won't. All the cars are here. It's just some key personnel are stuck in the Middle East. Now, most Formula One teams have redundancies for key personnel. So if there was, for instance, a person stuck in Dubai or Bahrain who was a key team member and had to be in Melbourne, there would be an equal person back in the UK at the team's headquarters that will be now put on a plane from the UK via Hong Kong or Singapore and will be able to get to Australia. The problem is that most of the F1 teams and their associates have deals with Emirates. There is a lot of Middle Eastern sheiks who own Formula One teams or own shares in Formula One teams. And one of those is heavily involved with the likes of Etihad and Emirates and Qatar Airways. They're all involved at various different levels of sponsorship. So F1 is reaping some benefits, I guess, of what it has sown. I'll take that map down and we'll have another look at the minute chart, and I'll tell you nothing too terribly exciting. I thought it was really going to be a lot more exciting than it currently is, but it has jumped a couple of bucks. 133.96. It's just moved up to. Gold seems to be the one that's moving faster than anything else at the moment. Well, I can't change that chart over. I can show you mine though. If I take that one up and put that one on, that's the gold chart right now. So $5,351.30. And you can see it's certainly taken a nice rise from opening this morning. So gold and silver looking for all the money, like they are looking like they're going to give us a bit of a boost, one would hope. So that's back to US dollars. We're at 95 US dollars. You can change that back to Australian dollars for people like me who get confused very easily. And there you have it, 134.08 on the crime. I'm going to watch that for most of the day and see what other news comes out after battle damage assessment reports made public over the next few hours. I think we'll start seeing some of those come out in the free-to-air media as well as some of the offline media. So looking forward to bringing that to you probably a little later on this evening when we'll see what the price of silver winds up at for the day. A most exciting day for all concerned, I would have thought. Be safe, folks. Don't go and sell anything, and go and buy if you can possibly do it. And above all else, stay out of the way of the dickheads on the roads, folks.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!